It is believed that hope is the last thing to ever lose when difficult times arise. But what hope can be left when a small boy dies at the hands of that one person who was supposed to love and care for him the most? Today's case will show you how sometimes the monsters under your bed aren't nothing to be scared of compared to the monsters that people can become. Hey guys, welcome back to Crimeco, your go-to channel for some intriguing and incredible true crime stories. Before we continue with today's case, remember to subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and turn on the notifications. Help this true crime community grow even more. So buckle up and get ready to go on a wild ride with us. Sweet and bubbly Garnett Spears was born on December 3, 2008 in the river city of Decatur, Alabama. His mother, Lacy Spears, who was also born and raised in Decatur, was the only parental figure he knew. Of course, he had his grandparents, Terry and Daniel Spears, along with an uncle and an aunt. But unfortunately, Garnett never got to know his father. This was mainly because of his mother, Lacy, who, strangely enough, was determined to keep Garnett's biological father away from them. She never gave a proper explanation on why she decided to hide her kid's existence from his father. But as this case unfolds, it seems that Lacy took great pride in being a single mother. Moreover, the fact that she was taking care of a very sick child and being praised for her resilience and strength was the thing she loved the most. In his earlier months of life, Garnett suffered from several health issues that ultimately caused his death on January 23, 2014. By the time of Garnett's death, he had been admitted to more than 20 medical centers for his several and rare medical problems. This sweet little boy had been in and out of the hospital since he was only 9 weeks old. At first, his issues involved some severe ear infections, but as he grew older, the main issue was that he couldn't retain food. This caused him to have severe vomiting and a huge weight loss, so the doctors diagnosed him with failure to thrive. But this was far from the truth. His little body had all that was needed to thrive. It was his mother, Lacy, who induced this failure in her own child just because she craved the attention that came with taking care of a sick little boy. Garnett's health issues were only a means for her mother to get what she wanted, and when he died, he didn't seem to grieve that much about the death of her son, but she obviously seemed thrilled with all the attention from the media that she was getting. But that joyride didn't last long, and soon she was arrested and charged with second-degree murder and first-degree manslaughter in her son's death.
I took him to the hospital for help. If I had wanted to harm him, why would I take him to a hospital seeking help? I didn't hurt him. I didn't kill my son. I didn't murder him. I didn't poison him. I didn't harm him in any way. I wanted to know what was going on with him because he was in pain and he was suffering and he was hurting and nobody could explain to me what was going on.
After the investigation began, lots of unsettling details came to light. To start with, we need to go back to when Garnett was only a few months old and his medical journey began. As we already mentioned, doctors had diagnosed Garnett with failure to thrive since he couldn't keep food in his stomach and was suffering from heavy vomiting. The solution was stomach surgery to prevent him from throwing up. He was only 9 weeks old at the time, and he had already gone into major surgery from something that his own mother could have potentially provoked in him. With the surgery, doctors hoped the boy could retain food and nutrients, but only a week after they sent him home, Garnett was back at Decatur General Hospital. He couldn't eat or drink even a bottle, so he was admitted and diagnosed with severe dehydration. As his condition worsened, the doctors decided to transfer him to a better-equipped facility where the boy could get more thorough studies. So Garnett arrived at Birmingham Children's Hospital, and there it was discovered that his sodium levels were too high for an infant. A normal sodium count would be around 140, and he had 166. This fact had the doctors dumbfounded. It wasn't normal that an infant had this much sodium in his system, and they couldn't think of anything that could explain it. By that time, the best course of action was to try and get those levels down as soon as they could, since high levels of sodium could cause seizures and severe brain swelling. Once he got better, he was sent home, and Lacy hoped for the best, or not. According to her, Garnett's stomach troubles became a bigger issue to the point where he couldn't eat. So after seeing different doctors, one of them decided to insert a feeding tube on his abdomen through which nutrients would be directly administered to his stomach, either by a hanging bag, a bottle, or a syringe. At 9 months old, Garnett would go under surgery again. This time, the procedure was far more invasive since the tube, commonly known as the G-tube, had to be in place for an unlimited period of time, or, moreover, until Garnett could feed on his own. Unfortunately, that never happened, and the G-tube was part of Lacy's master plan to remain in control of her son's condition. But this wasn't Lacy's first rodeo with kids. The more the investigators dug into her past, Lacy's sweet home in Alabama became bitter and bitter. What they found was an endless web of lies and a pattern of weird and creepy behavior. From a very young age, Lacy was drawn to children. She was a typical Southern girl, although quite shy with everyone except when it came to dealing with little ones. After graduating from high school in 2006, she got a job at the Kids Club Daycare Center until it closed in 2008. After that, she went to the Child Care Network. Friends from that time remembered her as a very hard-working girl who had a passion for childcare. She was very good with children, especially babies, and she often cared for up to 5 babies at a time. She was so devoted to her job that sometimes she would open the daycare at 5:30 and leave at around 6 p.m. She also used to babysit for friends, which is the case for Shauna Lynch, whom she met while working at one of the daycares. Outside of work, she offered to babysit for her and soon became an important part of Lynch's family. Her kids loved being around Lacy, and she treated them like if they were her own, but they weren't. Lynch had a bad feeling about Lacy's treatment of her children, as she had become very clingy to them, so she decided to put some distance between them. Another friend of Lacy, Christy Burnham, had a similar experience with her while she babysat for her family. The two of them had met at junior college and remained friends, so she trusted Lacy to take care of her son. But soon enough, some weird rumors reached her ears, and it all came down while, at church, a woman approached her and referred to her son, Cameron, as Lacy's baby. Visibly shocked, she stated that he was her son, and that Lacy was just the babysitter and friend of the family. This pattern of owning up to motherhood repeated itself again with 2 more friends, Autumn Hunt and Cameron Clark. Lacy presented herself as the mother of their sons, and she even went as far as to post pictures with Jonathan, Hunt's son, on her MySpace profile, claiming he was her son. She apologized to her friend, but the trust was already broken, so both mothers cut ties with her for the safety of their children. But Lacy's web of lies began much earlier, back when she was still a preteen and discovering the world. This habit of making up stories was well known among her friends. One of them, Jessica Kyle, stated that they had been best friends since elementary school, but somewhere around high school, they slowly parted ways. During those years of friendship, they were inseparable, and Lacy would often spend weeks in a row at Kyle's house. But she recalls one time when her mother had to call the Alabama Department of Human Resources, the equivalent of Child Protective Services, because Lacy admitted to her that she was being abused. From that point on, Lacy would often mention it to whoever wanted to hear different stories about abuse, anorexia, and even abortion. It seemed that she always had a new tale to tell, and when somebody wouldn't fall for her lies and confront her with the truth, she would just tell another lie to cover it up, and so on. Her lies gave her the attention she craved, and this pattern would only worsen once she became a mother and had her own child to take care of. A pregnant woman is usually seen as someone who needs protection and care all day since they're growing tiny human beings in their wombs. But imagine if, besides becoming a mother, you became the protector of a sick, innocent boy. You would immediately become a hero, someone to look up to for the rest of your life. And that's exactly how Lacy wanted to be seen, as a superhero mother who did everything and beyond to help her son get better despite his health issues. She even went as far as to create a mommy blog called Garnett's Journey, where she documented all the hardships her son was facing at such a young age. She also posted frequently on Facebook and MySpace about their lives. Another important detail was discovered through some of her posts. There were 2 posts that mentioned Garnett's father, but the thing is that it wasn't who everyone knew he was, but someone else. Lacy had posted about how hard and devastating it was to live without her soulmate and Garnett's father, a guy named Blake. This completely baffled Lacy's friends and acquaintances, since everyone knew that a former neighbor of hers was her son's father. The man in question was Chris Hill, and it was an unspoken truth that he was the real father. Everybody knew it. Lacy knew it, but for some reason she always told the story about her ex-boyfriend Blake, who was a cop and had tragically passed away in a car accident. Hill and Lacy had been dating for a short period of time and even discussed baby names and marriage until one day Lacy cut him off and straight out told him that he wasn't the father and to not bother her. In an interview, Hill stated that all of a sudden she just acted like I didn't exist. She just ended it. She just wanted to be a mother and not have a father involved, and that's about it. They never talked again until after Garnett's demise, when Hill approached Lacy on her personal Facebook profile, and soon after they began to exchange messages in which she finally referred to him as Garnett's father. As we can see, Lacy's lies were all over the place, and with time she got better at it. That's how she managed to convince doctors to perform several procedures on Garnett's body. In 2010, a few months after the surgery to place the G-tube, Lacy decided to move to Florida, where she had her grandmother. While living there, Lacy did some domestic work and was also getting some public assistance. Family and friends may have thought of this as a new beginning for them, and a change of air would probably help Garnett's health. But after all the evidence found against Lacy, it was heavily suspected that she changed cities in order to get new doctors under her web of lies. It is also believed that doctors in her hometown may have been suspicious of her, as she moved before they reported her to the authorities. A former nurse at the Decatur General Hospital named Ginger Dabbs Anderson spoke to the investigators and gave some shocking and important pieces of information about the case. She stated that Lacy didn't know how to be a mother and that she befriended her to help her take care of Garnett in and out of the hospital. She stated that that's the only reason I was friends with her, because I thought I could teach her how to mother Garnett, what to do for him, and how to love him and take care of him. Lacy would often be stressed about her situation, and sometimes she would take it out on Garnett. She recalled one occasion in which Lacy was bathing the boy in the bathtub, and he was being fuzzy, so she just lost her temper and put her son's head underwater. Dabbs Anderson said that she immediately took the boy from her, and she took him out of the house. According to her, that wasn't the first time Lacy lost it with him, and she had a habit of putting her son at risk. Another thing that caught Dabbs Anderson's attention was the fact that although the nurses at the hospital taught Lacy how to feed her son, she never really paid attention to them and continued with her story about her son not retaining any food, which was weird since every time the nurses fed him, he presented no issues at all. She also stated that since she and Lacy were friends, she used to babysit Garnett, and he never had a bad reaction to the food she would give him. He ate fried potatoes and mashed potatoes. He ate with us whatever we had for dinner. He loved fried okra. One time he was hungry, so I went to McDonald's and got him a Happy Meal. He ate it all. The Dabbs Anderson statement matched another one. Lynch, one of the friends for whom Lacy used to babysit, stated that Garnett didn't show any issues with food when Lacy came to visit her family in Alabama. They used to get together to share a meal, and Lynch stated that Garnett was just a bouncing little 2-year-old kid running around. I never thought he was sick or anything. And then we had lunch, and he ate just like a normal 2-year-old would, pizza and drinks. It was only when Lacy fed her son that he had issues with food. When Garnett reached the age to be schooled, Lacy decided to move cities once again to give him a better education. So in 2012, they moved to an alternative community located an hour outside of New York City, called the Fellowship, whose goal is to look after its senior citizens. Workers live on site, contributing to numerous areas of the community while receiving free accommodation, board, and schooling for children. Garnett loved it there, and life was going great. They made friends with a woman called Valerie Plosh, who also stated that although Lacy told her about her son's feeding issues, Garnett seemed very active and healthy. She did recall that the boy was often hungry, so she would feed him some snacks, and he had no trouble at all eating them. But Lacy continued with her story about Garnett's issues, and she took him to another doctor in the area. Dr. Ivan Durenkov, a pediatric gastroenterologist, treated Garnett 5 times over the course of several months in 2013 for stomach issues and checking on his G-tube. He stated that Garnett was a perfectly healthy boy, but his main concern had to do with his feeding tube. He had it for a very long time, and by the time Lacy took him to see Dr. Durenkov, he was already 4 years old. The doctor advised her multiple times that her son didn't need it, and it was time to remove it, but she just wouldn't do it. He also asked for Garnett's medical records, but she would always have an excuse and never give them. Eventually, Dr. Durenkov stopped treating Garnett because he moved to another state, but he always suspected that Lacy could have Munchausen syndrome by proxy, which was the main focus of Garnett's death trial. Munchausen syndrome by proxy is a mental illness and a form of child abuse. The caretaker of a child, most often a mother, either makes up fake symptoms or causes real symptoms to make it look like the child is sick in order to get attention or sympathy. In Garnett's case, Lacy would introduce salt through his G-tube, which was the cause of all of his issues. Dr. Mary Sanders, a clinical psychologist and associate professor at Stanford University, was consulted for this case and stated that a surgically implanted feeding tube is an avenue of chaos. Anything can go in that tube. She also added that the red flags in this case are when the story does not fit what you see. So when a mother presents symptoms that when you see the child don't make sense, lab levels that don't make sense, a mother who says my child will not feed, we see evidence that the child will feed. Lacy was a textbook case of Munchausen by proxy, and the fact that she documented Garnett's issues all over social media meant that she would get the attention she craved. In January 2014, Garnett had a high fever with a stomachache and a headache, so Lacy took him to the doctor once again. His fever went down, but days later, everything took a turn for the worse. He was admitted to New York's Nyack Hospital with seizure-like symptoms, so the doctors put him in observation monitoring, not only his stats, but also his brain, with a camera recording in the room just in case. This detail would be vital in the trial. Garnett pulled through and was recovering amazingly, but 2 days after being admitted, he began screaming in pain because his head hurt a lot and he was trying to vomit, but due to his surgery as a baby, he couldn't, so he began choking and couldn't breathe. The doctors ran some labs again and his sodium levels were through the roof. When he was admitted, they were within a normal range of 138. At that time, it was 182, which was deathly high for a child his age. 2 hours later, he was airlifted to Westchester's Maria Ferrari Children's Hospital, where the medical staff managed to get his sodium levels down. But it was too late. The swelling in Garnett's brain had caused too much damage, and 2 days later, he was declared brain dead. The news of Garnett's death shocked not only the doctors, but also his friends and family. He was a healthy child, loved by so many people, and in a matter of days, his life faded away. The circumstances surrounding his demise were shady, and that's when the pieces of the puzzle started to make sense, and Lacy became a suspect in his son's death. Through the investigation at her place, they found a can of salt mixed with several other medicines. It was also revealed that Lacy asked a friend, Valerie Plosh, to go to her house and get rid of the feeding bags that she used to connect to Garnett's G-tube. Plosh took the bags, but instead of throwing them away, she gave them to the police. After thorough analysis, they discovered that those bags contained each an amount close to 69 small salt packs. Lacy maintained her innocence, said that someone else tampered with those bags throughout the trial. A search of her electronics also revealed that she had been searching about the dangers of high sodium levels in children, which incriminated her even more. But the final and most important piece of evidence in the trial was the recording at New York's Nyack Hospital. The recording showed Garnett getting sick after 2 visits to the bathroom, which the camera didn't record, but analyzing it frame by frame, Lacy can be seen hiding something between her clothes. After those visits, her son would get sick. After years and years of medical records and several statements from witnesses, the jury finally reached a verdict. On April 8, 2015, Lacy Spears was found guilty of second-degree murder under the theory that she showed a depraved indifference to human life and was sentenced to 20 years to life in prison. Her lawyers stated that they would appeal the verdict, and Lacy claimed once again that she didn't murder her son. In October 2017, her appeal was dismissed, and she would have to stay in jail at least until 2034. The person who should have watched over Garnett with the utmost love and protection in the world took his life because she cherished the attention and sympathy she received as a supermom in order to feel good about herself, even at the expense of her lovely son. Thanks again for joining us in this story. Before you go, let us know what you think about this incredible case in the comment section. We'll see you again in the next one.